there's one thing I would share with everyone I talk to. It's go passwordless as fast as you can, because passwords were a great invention in 1961. 1961, around the same time as the telex machine. Now, we've managed to take telex machines out of our businesses, but we're still asking our employees to take a colossal risk every time we ask them to type a password. And we know that 97% of all cyber breaches start with compromised credentials. So the number one thing I say to everyone, set a strategy to go passwordless and put the building blocks in place. And it's not as hard as we think. We've already done it on our smartphones. We can do it on our Windows machines, and we can do it on our MacBooks. And we just need to make it our North Star.
Technology has transformed how we live, work, and connect. And behind that change are visionary people with bold ideas. Welcome to the Bridgecast, where host Scott Kinka explores hybrid work, AI, and our evolving future with tech's brightest minds. Presented by Bridgepoint Technologies, the nation's leading tech advisory firm. Experience a better way. The Bridgepoint way.
Welcome to the Bridgecast. Today, I'm joined by Denis O'Shea, founder and CEO of Mobile Mentor. Denis founded Mobile Mentor back in 2004 with a mission to empower people to achieve more with their technology. 2 decades later, that mission has scaled into a global company operating across the US, Australia, and New Zealand, and a recognized as Microsoft's Global Partner of the Year. Under Denis's leadership, Mobile Mentor has developed to over 1 million people, becoming more secure, more productive, and better equipped to work across remote, hybrid, and frontline environments. Before starting Mobile Mentor, Denis spent 15 years at Nokia during one of the most transformative eras in mobile technology. In a world where every device is now both a productivity tool and a potential vulnerability, Denis is here to help us unpack how modern endpoint management, identity, and AI are reshaping the future of secure workforces. Denis, welcome to the Bridgecast.
Scott, thank you for having me on your podcast. I'm delighted to be here.
How would I do, by the way, with the description?
You're hired. That was a fantastic introduction. I couldn't have done it any better.
I love it. Well, tell us a little bit about you. Let's start there.
Sure.
You know, how you got into this, where you live, family, give us the whole skinny.
Born in Ireland. I went to 3 universities in Ireland, Finland, Switzerland. I started my career with Nokia in Finland for a few years. They asked me to move to New Zealand to set up the world's first cellular network back in 91 or 92. And it was meant to be for a 9-month contract. And I stayed 25 years because New Zealand is such a cool place. Married a Kiwi. And then our kids were actually born in Switzerland a few years later. But my entire family moved from Ireland out to New Zealand. So a massive shift. I got 5 sisters and they all moved to New Zealand. I set up Mobile Mentor in New Zealand. Went on a vacation a few years ago to Nashville, Tennessee was the first stop, and we all fell in love with it. And the kids and my wife said, "Hey, Dad, let's move to Nashville, Tennessee." And long story short, here we are.
Music fans,
just the culture, the vibe, the energy, the lifestyle, everything about the place. So we came here with a 4-year plan, and we're now in year 9 of the 4-year plan.
It always seems to work out that way, by the way. Denis, we're going to come back to Mobile Mentor in a minute, but I find it super interesting. I mean, you just shared a little bit about your history with Nokia. You know, you were going to literally set up the network right at the end of the day. I mean, you've led teams across Nokia, you founded Mobile Mentor, you spent 20 years helping organizations modernize technology. So before we get into the technical side, just tell us the story from that journey that maybe shaped the way you think about leadership, about technology. And as I hear you talk a lot about people and their use of technology, give us an anecdote.
I guess for me, it kind of started with the realization that I was not a good engineer. You know, I did engineering. I was in the lab doing design work, engineering work. I got a couple of patents and all that. But I realized my heart wasn't in it. I was never going to be a great engineer. I was much more interested in people, understanding how businesses worked. So I started to kind of find exit pathways out of technical engineering work into project management, account management, general management, leadership roles. And I learned to hire really good engineers because I knew what a bad one looked like. I saw it in the mirror every morning. So I was able to find and attract really good engineers to come and work for me. So that was really the key to me building strong teams, being able to recognize the difference between a strong engineer and a weak engineer. through my own experience and my own limitations. And so I've just focused on getting the right people, surrounding myself with really strong people technically and, commercially over the years, and building up teams. And also I think something I've done reasonably well is setting a clear vision, giving people a North Star on the thing we're going after, something bigger than ourselves, something we're going after that inspires people.
You've got 5,000 CIOs listening to this right now going, can you tell me the one thing that makes a good engineer over a bad engineer? Like, you got that. You said you figured it out. What did you figure out? Like, what's the one thing that really makes the person someone you'd want to surround yourself with from an engineering talent perspective?
Well, I'll tell you the one thing that turns me off immediately is if I see somebody who's an extrovert like me. I was too extroverted, too interested in people and business and other things going on, not interested enough in just going super deep into the tech. So I always have an allergic reaction to pumped up, extroverted, super happy engineers. I'm like, I'm not sure you're going to have the sticking power when it gets really, really tough.
You're not tinkerer enough if you're that interested in what I have going on. Is that what you're saying?
And the other thing I'm always looking for is evidence of depth and complexity in the person's life. So I'm looking for people who have hobbies where they've pursued something for a long time. Like if someone tells me they're a really passionate gamer, they've been doing it for 10 or 20 years, that's great. If someone tells me they're, a really keen guitarist or whatever it is, I'm looking for depth and longevity and passion, because I know that if we create the right culture at work, they will bring their passion and depth and longevity to the work environment, if we set them up for success. So I'm looking for that evidence of depth, somebody who can start something, carry it through, master it, and finish it.
I think that's amazing. We're going to get into quite a bit of that in maybe the next 20 minutes or so. Let's bridge the gap here. So you were doing the Nokia thing, and then you ended up at Mobile Mentor, and you started that to solve a specific problem. So I mean, what was that problem? And then is that problem different today that you're solving? Just walk us through that a little bit.
The problem I was solving was I was running Nokia's operation in Switzerland. We were building a 3G network. And I got my ass kicked essentially by the CEO of Orange, one of the big telcos in Europe, who said to me, we bought all this technology from Nokia last year. Our customers aren't using it. Why would we continue this rollout? Why would we continue purchasing new technology off you when you've done nothing to help us drive consumption and adoption of the technology we purchased over the last few years? And this was a large investment, talking, billions of euros of investment into the technology. And I really came away from that with my tail between my legs thinking, oh my God, we've sold the infrastructure, we've sold the smartphones, and they really were smartphones, or at least considered so back in those days. But people, end users were buying these devices, spending $1,000 on them, and all they were doing was making phone calls and sending text messages. The mobile internet, as we had conceived it, had not taken off. There was no social media. Setting up your email on your smartphone was a nightmare. You needed 2 different server addresses. Syncing your contacts was a nightmare. Getting your music on your phone was a nightmare. Everything was hard for the end user. And I kind of had a moment where I thought, oh my God, somebody needs to tackle this. Somebody needs to actually help the end user get on top of this, get smartphones set up properly, so they can, so we can use them and people can start to use the data services, which was the foundation of all the investment into spectrum, buying the licenses, building the networks, rolling out the cell sites. And so I left Nokia, and they were very good to me. They gave me some money and their blessing, and funded a pilot to do a program, which was all about helping one person at a time to unlock the full potential of this new smartphone technology. And this was back in 2003, 2004. When people got their first smartphone. And so the idea was very simple. It was sit down with someone like yourself, Scott, who had probably just got your first smartphone, and sit down with you for 1 hour and get your email working, get your calendar syncing, transfer your music, transfer your contacts, set up your numbers with the plus format so you can go roaming. Just get all that working so you can be productive. That was the idea.
And it's changed. I mean, obviously the technology's changed, but how we work and where we work and what's frankly even considered a mobile experience is different, right? what have you guys become? Has your approach helped organizations succeed in this, kind of increasingly hybrid mobile, whatever we want to call the way we're working right now? How did that initial vision change?
It changed very quickly. We rolled out that mentoring service to 1 million people, believe it or not, in Brazil, Australia, China, UK, Switzerland, New Zealand, all over the place. So literally sat down with 1 million people over about a 5-year period. So we learned a huge amount about what drives technology adoption and what are the barriers for user adoption of new technology. And of course, over time, mobile devices got simpler, but then laptops and tablets and desktops and virtual machines and Microsoft 365 and AI came along. And so the mission we had initially was unlock the full potential of the technology people are paying for. That mission is still the same. We haven't changed a single word. And nowadays we're unlocking the full potential of Microsoft 365, Microsoft Copilot. It's a technology that people are investing in nowadays, which is very different than what they were buying 20 years ago. Oh, the old stuff is easy. The new stuff is hard and requires effort.
Got it. And that's what led you ultimately to your focus around the Microsoft product stack.
It was in an accidental way. It was really interesting because Microsoft...
I love happy accidents. Tell me more.
Happy accident. Microsoft came to us and told us how much we were annoying them because they were seeing us in a lot of their big enterprise and government accounts, and we were usually deploying competitive products to help secure and manage devices and do all that stuff. And they were really annoyed with us. And they said, hey, would you consider becoming a Microsoft partner? And would you help us take this immature new product called Intune to market? So that was around 2015. And they knew Intune was a dog back in the day. And it really was terrible.
Said every guy listening to this podcast right now who tried to turn it on back then.
It was a dog. And all my engineers said, no way, that's a terrible idea. And I said, sorry, boys, we're going to do this because the power of the partnership is the thing. And the North Star we set for ourselves was we said, what if we were to put all our effort into becoming the best in the world at deploying Microsoft Intune? The product's going to mature. They're going to invest in it. Gartner had predicted that 95% of all organizations in the world would land on Intune to manage all their endpoints. And they were spot on. And so we put all our energy into trying to be the best in the world. And that's how we won Microsoft Global Partner of the Year, how we now manage the largest tenant in the world. A whole bunch of things have followed, and I've been invited to join the Microsoft Advisory Board for the Intune product line, and our engineers are part of the Microsoft Elite Engineering team. So some amazing privileges and honors came from, having that North Star and getting everyone pointing in the same direction.
Yeah. It's amazing. I mean, you've seen mobility go from, pull my antenna out, right, to today's like handheld supercomputer, right, at the end of the day. But, I'm a listener now going to this thing going, hey, this Denis guy, he's pretty cool and he's engaging in the whole 9 yards, but mobility, like, have we, the collective we, right, the community of IT leaders, have we slept on the importance and maybe more importantly, the risks of mobile computing in light of post, COVID hybrid work and how much we're doing on these phones? Like, I guess, is that sort of feeling around mobility? Are we doing ourselves a disservice here?
We think of the word mobile and mobility in terms of how we work, not devices. We think of it as an adjective rather than a noun. So we no longer really think about these devices as terribly important because they're easy nowadays. When we think about mobility, what I'm thinking about when I think about mobility is the ability to start a task here on my desktop, maybe continue it on my laptop, maybe finish it on my smartphone in the car. So it might be a Copilot thing I'm doing. It might be a Teams meeting where I'm doing seamless transfer. It might be an email I start on one device and finish on another. It's the ability to work on any device, anywhere, with the same information and be secure and not drop the ball on security because I've gone from my home computer, which is obviously, fully loaded with all the security, to a smartphone, being able to have a continuous thread of zero trust architecture all the way. across all the devices and being able to work anywhere, anytime, any device. For me, that's true mobility. And doing all that without ever typing a password.
I was thinking about something though, as you said that. Can I challenge you for a second? You made a statement a minute ago. You'll agree with me. It's not going to be a challenge. But you said, hey, we're going to go from this desktop, the secured desktop from the office, and I want to take it out to the mobile. I mean, is that really what you see? Because, I get the feeling that the more we've moved towards hybrid and remote work, we're still contending with, they're using their home device. Oh, they can get to I feel like the discipline around the endpoint, even at the PC level, has degraded, frankly, because we were so used to securing a network, a VPN in the home, or this or that. And now, we don't have these items in the middle. We're just not worried about, yeah, sure, go ahead, get it your Office 365 on your, on iOS. I feel like we've gotten worse at it, particularly at the PC that's sitting on the desktop, because now it's in somebody's living room. Am I feeling that the wrong way? Or
I'm going to partially agree with you. I see a lot of organizations who are still reliant on security architecture from the last century. So the Windows machine being on a domain, behind a firewall, joined to AD, deployed with SCCM, patched from time to time, but not systematically, not automated. They haven't automated all 5 kinds of patching, and in spite of spending 20 or 30 years working on security for the Windows stack, it's still loose in many organizations. And then the other problem is MacBooks. Some organizations have done a great job on securing them, but I hear almost every day people say to me, we've only got a small number of Macs, so we don't really worry about them. And then I pressure test that and I go, well, is that small number your execs by any chance? With the most privileged information, the biggest targets for any bad actors, and they'll go, oh, yeah. And then we pressure test further and find out that they're not encrypted, they don't have file vault, they don't have endpoint privilege management. There's often a whole bunch of holes in the management of Macs because it's a small fleet, but actually you only need one person to be careless with one set of credentials, and it's all over. And smartphones are actually way easier to secure nowadays than they were before, because we can have a BYO smartphone and still wrap fabulous security around all the data in the Microsoft apps, Teams, Outlook, Word, PowerPoint, OneDrive, all that. We can secure the data, and we can also block man-in-the-middle attacks and inappropriate app permissions with some other tools. So it's very easy to secure the mobile stack these days. It's actually a bit harder with the legacy Windows environment.
Yeah. Well, and you think about it too, you mentioned Office 365 earlier, and the reality of it is our reasons for having a domain almost don't even exist anymore. It was to give me authentication within a building and to gain access to resources that were sitting on that network. Now the file sharing's in SharePoint, it's lit online, right? It's living behind Office 365, and others. I know we're having a Microsoft centric conversation. It does really change. You think the thing that you made me think about was, look at that Windows 11 device that's sitting out there. It's not that it's not secured, it's that it's secured for the way we used to communicate. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, and that's both limiting the security of it and limiting the satisfaction of the end user. It's why is this so clunky? Why do I have to log into the domain to do things I can do on my mobile? It is really, you focus so much. I've heard you speak a couple times. We did another video a couple weeks ago, and you always talk about people. I think people were really at the genesis.
For me, it's all about the people
of your company, right?
Empowering people.
Is that the biggest mistake we make as IT leaders when we're rolling out new tech? This is a macro level question, not just necessarily related to mobility. Or at least is it at the top of the list for you when you get out and you meet with customers? Too much tech for tech's sake and not enough thinking about the humans that are going to press the buttons?
Definitely too much tech in all the organizations we talk to. We run an assessment when we start working with any new client, cover about 120 topics to understand all their identity and endpoints and access and applications and their data and their AI readiness and all that. And across a couple of hundred of these assessments, we find organizations are only using 44% of the licenses they purchase from Microsoft, which is a depressingly low number, only 44%. And in most cases, they've got all these overlapping products as well. So they're probably also using 44% of CrowdStrike or Proofpoint or Okta or Duo or Jamf or AirWatch or whatever the other technologies are. And so the challenge we put in front of a lot of our clients is, why not consolidate? Why not squeeze a lot more value out of one or two strategic platforms rather than being spread thin across a whole bunch of poorly implemented, poorly integrated, half-utilized technologies that overlap each other? That's just, missed opportunity because you're not getting the automation and integration, and you're spending money on products that are not being used.
How do you engage the end user in that? Like, if we're assuming we're doing a lot of tech for tech's sake, we're kind of answering the questions that are being asked of us. It's generally a point solution to solve a specific thing without maybe a macro level view across the overall stack, certainly not considering end users. I mean, if you were a leader and you're going, I'm doing a digital transformation, I want, as opposed to a technical upgrade, what do you think they're not thinking about? Like, where do you see the mistakes being made by IT leaders today? Or maybe it's not a negative, maybe it's a positive. What advice would you give to turn a technology upgrade into a digital transformation?
Yeah.
There was one thing to be thinking about.
I've seen two very good approaches in the last few years. I saw one, and I can tell you publicly who they are because they were quite public about it. It was Vanderbilt University Medical Center. And we did a ton of work with them. They wanted to go fully modern with the Microsoft stack. And we worked with them for several months on the design. And there was a date in the calendar. I said, by this date, we want to be able to buy a new machine, deploy it to one person, to have completely biometric sign-in experience, no passwords, sync all the OneDrive content, have a fully automated provisioning experience, fully automated patch experience, everything automated right through to end of life. And that one person was the CIO. And we delivered the machine to her, and she had the whole Windows Hello experience. Everything was automated. She watched it all happen. And then she said, okay, this is good enough for me. Let's roll it. And they rolled it out to 38,000 clinicians. So that was one approach, prove it for one person and then roll. The other approach I've seen work really well is taking the approach that we're going to hide things. Step by step, we're going to hide technology. And so taking the approach that we want to make our security invisible. We're going to stop people typing passwords. We're going to stop annoying MFA prompts. We're going to get away from having a domain, get away from VPNs, and we're going to lean fully into zero trust architecture. So we're going to rely on your identity as the new perimeter and a secure device that's been correctly provisioned. All 5 kinds of patching are automated. We know for sure there's no vulnerability on it. And so now we can look to see, is this the real Scott Kinka? Can we do a phish-resistant MFA prompt? Can we verify that his credentials cannot be found on the dark web? Is his machine one we recognize? Has it been built correctly? Has it been patched recently? And if yes, now we can put it through some conditional access policies and give that Scott Kinka access to the apps that we've deployed correctly and patched, and to the data that we've encrypted and labeled and made accessible to you. And all that without any of the legacy technology from the last century. There's no domain in that. There's no on-prem. It's all cloud native, cloud first.
What strikes me is this constant conversation we have, either the folks I'm talking to get it, or they're not. This disintermediation of human and network, and they both require security, but in a lot of ways, if you're going straight zero trust, you're securing you, regardless of where you go. Do you still find you're spending a lot of time on that? Just kind of getting people's heads wrapped around the kind of adjustment away from a network-centric model?
Not anymore. I was 2 or 3 years ago. We put out 3 white papers on zero trust. They got massive downloads and readership for a while. That's probably eased off because I think everyone gets it now, and everyone realizes that the tools that we built to secure our businesses in the last century are not the right tools for today's environment. They're just not the right tools. And so we have to evolve our thinking, and I think everyone's now recognizing as well that we just need to get away from passwords. If there's one thing I would share with everyone I talk to, it's go passwordless as fast as you can, because passwords were a great invention in 1961. 1961, around the same time as the telex machine. Now, we've managed to take telex machines out of our businesses, but we're still asking our employees to take a colossal risk every time we ask them to type a password. And we know that 97% of all cyber breaches start with compromised credentials. So the number one thing I say to everyone, go up, set a strategy to go passwordless and put the building blocks in place. And it's not as hard as we think. We've already done it on our smartphones. We can do it on our Windows machines and we can do it on our MacBooks. And we just need to make it our North Star.
You may have answered this question already by the statement that you just made, but my next question was going to be, if I'm an IT leader listening to this, what's the one thing I should be thinking? Take one thing away from this. Is it begin to develop your passwordless security strategy?
Yeah. And it's surprisingly easy, Scott. Surprisingly easy. It's just set a mandate in the business that every new piece of hardware that comes in has to have TPM 2.0. I think everyone got there about 18 months ago. Every piece of hardware needs to have an infrared camera so we can do facial recognition. Every new application needs to have SSO, native SSO with Entra. And then our MFA has to be rolled out to every person in the organization, excluding service accounts. And it needs to be phish resistant. And then we just tie those things together with conditional access policies. And so I haven't typed a password for 3.5 years now. And I don't know my password. It's this ridiculously long, complex alphanumeric thing. So if someone sends me a phishing email and I say, hey, Denis, type your password into this dodgy browser window, I wouldn't know what my password is because I never type it. Now, so I've become almost phish resistant as a human because I don't know my password and all my company don't know their passwords. That's where we want to go. Get rid of these damn passwords.
So I want to go there. Let's say we're having a meeting. I'm the customer, you're mobile mentor, and we're together and I go, but I've got a budget. I've got gear. I'm still depreciating. I have all these things and this is going to be an effort, right? How do you, because this is a security problem in general, but I think even specific to what you're talking about, it's maybe even more micro, which is how do you build a TCO or more importantly, perhaps a business outcome, right? Out of kind of rainy day policy management. Security is always a problem after you have after there's an incident, right? But nobody wants to invest in it until then. So I think everybody listening here is going, oh my gosh, this is a great utopia. I'm believing Denis. He's a smart guy. We can do all this with Microsoft. I love some of his strategies. I'd like to do that. But at the end of the day, it's still a project. I've got to go get money for it. Maybe it saves me money later, right? Is there a business, a measurable business outcome here outside of risk avoidance? How do you help somebody find the money, time, effort to do this? Or it's just that they've just got to believe that you do this based on risk avoidance?
You can build a business case with data based on time saved for employees not having to type passwords. That's very easy in healthcare, where, you got people signing into EMR many, many times throughout the shift and logging out and making sure all the PII is removed. So if we can move to biometric authentication, there's a very clear ROI in law enforcement, healthcare, some other government departments. But I would say in general, going passwordless is one of the things where we advise people to do it quietly, not do a big splash. So there are some kinds of change where we say you've got to be very explicit and tell people we're doing this and here's why and here's how, such as rolling out OneDrive. If you're rolling out OneDrive, you want to tell everyone, stop sending attachments. Share a link to the OneDrive resource. Don't send attachments. That's what we did in the last century. We're going to stop doing that and start every new document in the correct OneDrive folder for your customer or your project or your job, whatever. We've got to be very explicit. When it comes to passwordless, we find the quieter we are, the better. So just each new machine comes in, gets configured with Windows Hello. People just learn they can sign in with their face. They don't need to type a password. We didn't need to do a big announcement. We roll out a new application. It's got single sign-on. It didn't ask you for a password. You didn't know about it. We do conditional access policies. You get fewer prompts for MFA, but they're the right ones at the right time if you're on public Wi-Fi or something like that. So passwordless is one of those things we think we do quietly. We do it by stealth. And then we tell the business afterwards, isn't it great that you're not typing passwords anymore and you're saving time, as opposed to other things where we have to be a lot more deliberate and explicit.
Yeah, ultimately, I guess what I'm hearing you say is you want the employee realizing one day that they're not typing passwords anymore, not being told. Super interesting. We're going to get to some fun questions, but I have one more business question for you. Just sum up your philosophy your management philosophy for tech and business leaders in one sentence. Make it simple. What's the Denis O'Shea credo?
I would say, well, it evolves over time, okay? Because technology changes so fast. But right now, I am hearing so many people tell me that they're sick and tired of their best of breed technology strategy, and they're seriously interested in best of platform and wanting help to consolidate for a number of reasons. And when we look at the enterprises we talked to, they've got an average of 52 security tools, right? And if you think about it this way, how many missile systems do you think Ukraine has right now? I bet you they've got a huge number, because they'll just buy a missile defense system from anyone who comes selling one to them, because they're in a desperate situation. They're under attack. And I think what's happened over the last 10 or 15 years is enterprises have been under attack and have acquired 52 point solutions and realize now that it's extraordinarily difficult to integrate them. It's really hard work to pull data from all of them and make sense of that data, and really hard to try and get AI to reason over 52 different tenants or 52 different tools, because the data is designed to be locked up in a separate silo in each of those. And so I'm seeing a big shift in the industry now. People are going, that best of breed stack served us okay for a while. Now we should really be consolidating on one or two strategic vendors and squeezing a lot more value out of them, and doing a lot more integration, a lot more automation, and setting ourselves up with a data lake or data estate so that AI can reason over our data and do the work that our humans used to do.
There's a lot there that we could unpack, but we're running up against our time. So we're going to, maybe another time we'll do that. I love that answer though.
Scott, can I make a prediction?
Yeah, go. Well, I was going to ask you, hold on, let me do the next question. I need a shameless prediction. Look at you. You didn't even know it was coming. Go ahead.
Hate me for this, but I'm going to predict that in the same way we got to 52 security tools, we're going to get to 52 AI tools in an organization. The human trigger is different. So it was fear with security. We were under attack by bad actors. Now the emotion is FOMO. The board and the exec team, they all have fear of missing out. And they're going to scramble and buy way too many AI tools. Way too many. There's going to be all sorts of AI tools all over the business.
And we'll be doing this same cycle in 10 years.
Absolutely.
Maybe not even 10.
Maybe not. It's going to go so fast. Yeah. Yeah. We'll need AI.
I was also going to ask you for a
AI.
contrarian opinion, but you just gave it to me. So it was pretty good.
Yeah. We'll need AI tools to sort out our AI tools.
You know, totally true. You're needing an AI tool to go find all the other AI tools is what we're going to be doing. So here's a funny question. Let's just put your sci-fi hat on. You're in some dystopian future, whatever that is. And there's only one app that is still working on this mobile device we've been talking about. What's the most useful app? And pick your poison on whatever's going on in the world. You can call it, but what's the one app?
Pickleball tournaments. I could live without everything else.
You're talking an app to find pickleball tournaments?
Yeah.
Oh my. I mean, I guess that would need to be a future in which we're still playing pickleball, but hey, I get it.
We don't need technology to play pickleball. We can still have fun.
I like it. All right. Obviously, I can see from the bookshelves behind you that you're an avid reader. What's on the nightstand right now? What are you reading?
A book called Theo that my wife convinced me to read, and about 7 other books. What You Need to Know About AI, Let Them by Mel Robbins, The Blue Zones, Unreasonable Hospitality, and Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell.
You can keep all that straight in your head at one time?
No, I'm looking
at them. In process on all of them?
They're all beside my reading armchair. I'm looking at
I love it. Denis, I really enjoy having conversations with you. For our listeners who want to learn a little bit more about Mobile Mentor, aside obviously from engaging with their friendly neighborhood strategist at Bridgepoint, how can they learn a little bit more about the company?
Mobile-mentor.com is our website, and through Bridgepoint, of course, and LinkedIn as well. I think we're reasonably active on LinkedIn.
Perfect. Any last words of wisdom for an IT director who's like, I better get serious about mobility?
About mobility? No, not about mobility, but I think around AI, I feel like we need to take a very structured approach. Define the use cases, secure the data, train the users, build the agents really methodically, and then measure the ROI. So we look at those 5 aspects of AI success, and we think that there's no shortcut.
There's a whole other episode on that one. Because I think the fun and interesting reality on that. I had a debate at a dinner in New York last night with a bunch of IT people about this. And it was basically around, is IT responsible for the satisfaction of the line of business application? And, you don't have to answer that. But I feel like what's happening is AI is putting us directly up against the nexus of that, because we're asking IT to fulfill the AI need, but the use cases belong inside the line of businesses. Totally. And they're like, the IT department doesn't believe that the success of the app is necessarily owned by them, it's owned by the line of business. But you get the idea. We're in this gray area where infrastructure is smashing up against usage that we've had some points like that in the past, but not this way.
Yeah, totally with you. And look, where we're seeing success is where it's laid from the top down, CEO or COO or one of the C-suite owns it, not the CIO or the CISO. They play a huge role in making sure it's deployed securely. We're limiting data oversharing. We're building our agents in a way that they can be robust and secure. There's a whole bunch of important things the CIO and CISO need to do, but we believe the ambition for AI, the mandate, the use case definition needs to happen in the business, the line of business.
We had this conversation too about a C-level executive who's saying to an IT, hey, go get some AI. We didn't have the other conversation. And I'll say what I say. I said this last night during the conversation. I said, any tool that does everything doesn't do anything when you turn it on. Right. At the end of the day, those are the point apps, right? But a tool that does everything doesn't do anything. And we were like, oh, I'm going to use that in my next call. So it was a good one. Denis, as always, whenever I chat with you, it's entertaining and fun, and I learned something. It was really great to chat with you today.
Thank you. Thanks for hosting, and I look forward to continuing the partnership.
You got it. I appreciate that. Right. And that will be a wrap on this episode of the Bridgecast. If today's conversation gave you something to think about, please hit subscribe, leave us a review, share it with your team. We'll be excited to see you on a future episode. Enjoy it. Listen, if you made it this far, there must have been some good content, or you're just a fan or a relative of mine. In either case, we appreciate you spending your most valuable asset with us, your time. We don't take that lightly. We'd also like to say one more time that we're appreciative of Bridgepoint Technologies and their belief and sponsorship of this show. We hope that if you or someone you know is thinking about your company's digital transformation, or simply the next IT project that you may not have the resources, budget, or time to get to, I'm sure that Bridgepoint, one of the country's fastest growing technology advisory and procurement firms, can help. Check out bridgepointtechnologies.com. Don't forget the E on Bridgepoint, or simply reach out to me at Skinka, SKINKA, at bpt3.net. Also take a minute, please, if you would, to give us a 5-star review on your favorite platform. It helps give us the visibility to reach other people like you. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Bridge. I'm Scott Kinka, and until next time, there's a lot of noise out there in business and in life. Do what you can to be the signal. Thanks.